Welcome to the class of 2021, to your wonderful families and to your dear friends. Welcome to our guest speaker, Maria Hinojosa, to our faculty, staff, lecturers, emeriti, and to my immediate predecessor, former Dean Ed Wasserman. I'm Geeta Anand, Dean of Berkeley Journalism. That we worked together through the pandemic, the racial reckoning, and the polarizing election, not just to learn important skills in journalism, but to produce important stories, speaks to our resilience, our commitment to having an impact, and to our love for one another and this world. We've learned a lot, and I want to talk a little about that learning. It's become strikingly evident that who the storytellers are matters. That's because we all see the world through the prism of our own lived experiences. If more journalists, and indeed more industry leaders, were people of color, mainstream media would have recognized much sooner that the cases of Black and brown civilians being killed were not isolated examples of police misconduct. If leaders in journalism came from less privileged white families, families that struggled with declining wages and inadequate healthcare, they would have known far sooner of the profound alienation and mistrust of government that fueled Donald Trump's rise. Journalism's mistakes matter for the future of democracy. We perform an essential public service. When we tell stories of injustices, we force our leaders to confront these problems, find solutions, and implement them. If we take decades longer than we should to recognize something is a story that requires telling over and over again until our government addresses it, that means there is delayed justice, a delayed opportunity to redress problems. The problems fester, their victims become more and more frustrated. They lose faith in the system and one another. When we fail as journalists, it has devastating consequences for the future of democracy. During my 27 years as a journalist, I've worked at some of the best mainstream news organizations in the world. As a woman of Asian Indian descent, as an immigrant raised in Mumbai, I know what it's like to navigate an environment, a working environment dominated by white men, to be passed over for promotions, not to have your story ideas recognized as newsworthy, because your editors don't have the lived experiences to understand that the problems you see so clearly are real. Last year, as America underwent a racial reckoning, you, class of 2021, rightly demanded that we at Berkeley Journalism do better. As a woman of color on the faculty of this school, I understood the gravity of those demands, and I responded. In fact, it is because I recognize the opportunity of our present moment that I raised my hand to become dean. I am talking about the opportunity to create huge structural change in this institution, change long overdue. And in many ways, it is because of your support that I stand here as Berkeley's first woman of color to serve in this role. This past year, I have partnered with you to begin the difficult and important job of transforming not just our school, but our industry. Together, we've created a new race and journalism class, are hiring a new race and journalism professor, diversified our lecturer pool with amazing new lecturers like Anita Varma, Angel Jennings, Mark Lacey, Otis Taylor, and I could go on. Created a more inclusive admissions process that increased applications by 55%. Admitted a class of 2023 with a record number of students of color, 52%. Created monthly faculty trainings on how to make classrooms more equitable. Raised nearly $50,000 in emergency funds for students. This year, the majority of the summer research assistants in our investigative reporting program are students of color. Know that as you venture out to begin your journalism careers, you leave a lasting legacy at Berkeley, and that is something to be proud of. Still, there is work to be done. I have laid out a bold vision at Berkeley Journalism to lead the way in taking the limits off who gets to become a journalist in this country. Because we know the economics of journalism don't work for lower income people, this profession has not attracted large numbers of first-generation students, children of immigrants, and people from historically marginalized groups. So our profession is disproportionately made up of people with backgrounds of privilege. We want our graduates to leave with as little debt as possible so they can afford to take the entry-level jobs that are stepping stones to careers of enormous power and influence. I'm sure many of your parents would have loved to have heard this prior to you coming to spend time with us here at Berkeley. Indeed, we are committed to raising an endowment to make our school the first in the country to be tuition-free. To do that, we need to raise $100 million. And as a first step, we've raised 5 full scholarships this year for students who are first generation. Again, I want to thank you for being a catalyst and a vital partner in this work. And I charge you to take our collective mission of taking the limits off who gets to be a journalist out into the institutions where you find work. We live in times where transformative social change is possible. Fight for the stories that need to be told. Fight to become the leaders of the news organizations where you work. Found the journalism companies to tell the stories that nobody else will. And as you're out there fighting to make sure all stories are told, know that here at Berkeley Journalism, we'll be fighting to send the next generation of journalists into the world who look like all of America. Thank you. And now, for the next part of today, each year, our students vote for 2 students, 1 faculty member, and 1 lecturer to address you at commencement. This year, the student speakers are Chancellor Makanjuola and Robin Estrin. The faculty speaker is Richard Koci Hernandez, and the lecturer is Betsy. Robin will come first. Come on up, Robin. Woo!
Hello, everybody. My name is Robin Estrin, and it is an incredible honor to be speaking with this camera today, knowing that somewhere behind it are my classmates and friends and family members and hundreds, if not thousands of their closest friends and family members and podmates and neighbors and Facebook friends. An equally warm welcome to you all, and thank you so much for joining us today. I want to extend an especially warm welcome to the students in our class who are the first in their families to graduate, and congratulations to their families watching from home. I also want to honor the handful of students in our class who are also parents, and I want to extend my support and admiration to the members of our community who lost loved ones during their time at Berkeley Journalism. My heart is with you, especially today. I want to thank Gita Anand for her leadership at this trying and ultimately triumphant juncture in our school's history. I want to thank the school's tireless staff who have worked long days to come up with a way to make this ceremony special and very well lit. And I want to thank, finally, our professors. When the school shut down last March, many of us were feeling fearful and lost, and you inspired us with an infectious sense of journalistic purpose, though I imagine you were feeling fearful and lost too. We are not having an in-person commencement ceremony today, but we are having a historic one. This year has been a collision of one story of a lifetime after another. A pandemic that's killed at least 3.8 million people worldwide. Police killings of Black Americans that have driven protesters from their homes in every major American city and suburb and newsroom and journalism school. And of course, a very chaotic presidential election that culminated in an insurrection at our nation's capital. To name what we've been through makes what we're doing here today, celebrating our accomplishments at the journalism school, all the more meaningful. For most of our time here, we did not have the opportunity to learn with each other in physical community. So I wanted to highlight some incredible feats from my classmates. Daniel Lempress published stories in 3 of the nation's 5 highest circulation newspapers. Kristen Wong filmed an entire documentary and recorded the sound by herself while wearing a beekeeping suit. Yuri Avila culled the data that became the New York Times nationwide map of every protest held for George Floyd last summer. Catherine Hurd and Ellie Lightfoot went on national television to talk about the rise of extremist militia groups twice. My brilliant and resilient classmates did all of this and much more during one of the most obstacle-ridden time periods in modern history. It was lonely at times and challenging, but we did it together, and we are better journalists because of it. We didn't just live through the pandemic either. We sought out and told its stories. Reporting during this time was a lifeline. It connected us with others and allowed us to process the pandemic with our sources for our readers, all while figuring out what it meant for our own lives, our own families and careers. This weighed on each of us differently. Ashley Brown grasped the severity of the pandemic in March when she started speaking with restaurant owners who were preparing for the first time to shut down their businesses. It hit Brett Simpson in April. Brett was writing an obituary for a beloved singer who died of COVID-19 alone in a nursing home with a caregiver holding a phone to his ear. In July, Dina Sabri worked with Ashna Malpani and Stephanie Penn to tell the stories of some of the pandemic's essential workers, while Dina's family begged her to return home to Cairo for fear they would be separated indefinitely. At times, all of this was very overwhelming. The suffering around us was so great that some days we felt numb. A lot of classmates use this word to describe the middle chapters of the pandemic, numb. But instead of sticking our heads in the sand and accepting what wasn't working in our world and in our field, Berkeley journalists started asking questions, not just of government leaders and working people across the country, but of ourselves and our industry. Where does my identity as a journalist end and my role as a human being begin? Do journalists protest? Do journalists vote? We asked, how much of myself can I bring to my school and my newsroom? How much of myself am I being asked to leave behind? And how much of that am I willing to put up with when I work diligently and constantly for very little money, and half the country, it seems, hates me? Who does my journalism serve? Zora Neale Hurston wrote, "There are years that ask questions and years that answer." This year certainly delivered some profound and startling answers. In many ways, these answers showed us a society and an industry that was very sick. We were driven forward, though, by our questions. They didn't just lead us to front page investigations and documentary films and TikTok explainers, which they did. They led us to something more meaningful and profound. I have no doubt in my mind that the questions that this year delivered us will be the ones that change journalism. And I'm even more certain that my classmates will be the ones to ask them. Remember the moments your questions rang with fairness and moral clarity. Remember the energy and conviction behind them. And the next time the world begins to unravel, which it surely will, don't be afraid to ask another. Thank you.
Robin!
Next up, it is my great pleasure and honor to introduce my classmate, Chancellor Makanjuola.
And
welcome, everyone. It's so good to be here with you all today, even though, of course, we're in a separate space. I want to give a huge congrats to the class of 2021 for surviving this unprecedented school year. What we've experienced in these past 2 years of our lives here at Berkeley Journalism will forever carry a great impact on our careers. I was honored when you all chose me to be one of your class representatives to speak at our graduation ceremony today. There's so much to say and so much to reflect on, and I know for many of us, this was a time of reckoning and confronting issues we might not have been bold enough to do before. Like the class of 2020, we too are graduating in a virtual setting, with many of us tuning in remotely from home. This past school year has been tough. Some of us haven't seen each other in person for over a year since the pandemic began. Others have had to navigate how to complete their master's theses remotely and under strict COVID protocols. And while there have been frustration, tears, anger, all throughout this process, we've managed to get to this point. And just know that your work, your hard work, has not gone unnoticed. These past few weeks, we've watched, read, and heard the incredible stories produced by our class during the pandemic. From a community anchored out at sea, to conversations with an original member of the Black Panther Party, to the history of vaccines and the ongoing impact of COVID in underserved communities, as well as the bombshell expose of a former Air Force sergeant with ties to a far-right extremist group. Our class has produced some incredible stories, so please give yourselves a round of applause. You all are amazing. When I reflect on my grad school journey, I think about the person I was coming into the J School versus who I am now. Of course, I haven't changed that much, but as someone who had never been to California prior to coming here from Texas, there was a lot of culture shock I had to get through before adjusting. Lots of steep hills, understanding what California casual is, which is just casual wear and nothing too fancy. So if you're coming from out of state where we typically sometimes dress up in the South, like don't get your hopes up high, trust me. And seeing people's willingness to recycle. Nonetheless, I was surprised by how open people were with topics of mental health and self-care, which was important to know as I went through the ups and downs of grad life. Coming in, I knew I wanted to be on the documentary track, but I wasn't too sure of the kind of stories I wanted to tell and how effectively I could use my voice. For some of us, our voice is a pen, a camera, a voice recorder, a computer, or really just our mouths to speak. And while I tend to express my stories through film, What's more important to me is the person or the subject I'm telling the story on. Being fair and accurate in how I approach a topic. Same rings true for many of us. Now, the process of becoming a journalist varies from person to person. We've all made rookie mistakes, perhaps misspelled somebody's name, mispronounced somebody's name, forgotten camera equipment, or got lost on a reporting trip. Or maybe it was experiencing another downside. Sources canceling on you last minute, story pitches, falling through and having to pivot to something else on short notice. But even then, our class has proven that we are resilient and we can handle many challenges that come our way. While our first year was one of creating close bonds with our peers, exploring the Bay Area, learning how to use camera equipment and the fundamentals of journalism, coming into our second year was a bit different. Now, if this was a normal school year, the gap between our first and second year would have been one where we're just focusing on our internships and getting ready to hone in on our specialized tracks for our master's projects. And while we were able to do that successfully, the summer of 2020 was more than about figuring out how to do an internship or work remotely, if we were even able to do that, but more so understanding the power of speaking up. I'm of the belief that no matter what tragedy or hardship one may experience in life, something good will come out of it. Less than a year ago, a man who prior to his death was unknown to many outside of his close friends and family would be the catalyst for a global racial reckoning some of us had never witnessed in our lifetime before. The knee on his neck was the knee of a system of injustice on Black people in this country, on the disadvantaged and the unheard. Those who continue to be mistreated by our justice system. The tragedy of that event was the door that opened up conversation on how we as a people can be better, how we can understand how our own internalized biases and ignorance can affect many people. Throughout the summer of 2020, we watched the protest, the anger, the frustration play out on national TV, on social media, in our homes, and even here at the J School. I've had several memorable moments during my time here, but I will never forget the one evening in early June in the midst of high racial tensions across this country that a few of us J School students hopped on a Google Doc and wrote a letter to the J School administration about why we, as one of the nation's top journalism schools, could not be silent on this matter. Journalism can never be silent, as the late journalist Henry Grunwald once said. That is its greatest virtue and its greatest fault. And we knew that we as the class of 2021, and even the class of 2020 that joined in, and the incoming class of 2022 that joined in on our conversations, knew that we could not be silent on this matter. To my fellow graduating members of our NABJ UC Berkeley chapter, I thank you. I'm proud of the accomplishments our chapter has done to make our presence known on this campus. For staying up late and taking the time to come together to produce a list of action items, which I can only hope can be a guiding source for this institution long after we graduate, and that our new members continue to pass the torch. I want to thank our Black J School alumni for their support and Berkeley journalism to the incoming class. We want to leave it better and stronger than how we came. Thank you to the faculty who have taken time this year to include student voices on your panels and your meetings and in your committees and striving for positive change. We now have our first woman and woman of color as our new dean, Dean Geeta Anand. The faculty has taken great strides to hire more professors of color, and like everyone else that works at the school, is equally qualified and talented and may not have had the same opportunities as their white counterparts throughout their careers. So to the people who created the steering committee, who have created panels, who have taken the time to listen to us as class of 2021, I thank you. I was fortunate enough this spring to attend a Bay Area news writing class and listen to local TV journalists reflect on their careers, the mistakes they've made, and the lessons learned. And one said something which is very profound, which I want to share with you all, is that throughout our journalism careers, we may talk to hundreds of people, produce and publish tons of stories, both big and small, and visit countless communities, regions, and countries. And while we ourselves may forget some of the stories that we've worked on, the people we've interviewed will never forget us. That's the power of journalism. So always remember, no matter how small you may think your role as a journalist is, what you do makes an impact. That unfinished draft, that story pitch, that film idea, that radio piece, that multimedia project you've been holding on to matters. The field of journalism is changing. As we begin to challenge the notions of objectivity that have been a guiding source for the journalism industry, we also see the dangers of both sidesisms. How too much reliance on official sources from those in power could impact or harm the people our stories were meant to be about. A reminder that during the initial police reports of George Floyd's death, a knee on his neck was never mentioned. While there are several positives to being in the field of journalism, we also have to look at the reality that many fresh out of J School grads continue to face. Dwindling newsrooms, lack of diversity, low pay, high stress, and a mistrust in the news. Still, also being considered by some the enemy of the people. But let us always remember that our voices are important. A free press is vital to our society and more crucial as our world continues to shift into the digital realm. Holding those in power accountable and exposing the injustices through investigative work is more important now than ever before. So to the class of 2021, let's celebrate our achievements and for making it through these past 2 years, to making lifelong friendships, to leaving with a portfolio of work that'll make us strong candidates for jobs and various opportunities that will come our way. In the words of the late, great Congressman John Lewis, let us all go out there and make trouble, good trouble. In the moments of injustice, our work as journalists, filmmakers, writers, producers, broadcast news reporters, or whichever track this vast field may lead you is more important now than ever. Never forget, your voice matters and how you use it matters. Lastly, if this pandemic has taught us anything, let us be kind to one another. Reach out to your loved ones and never underestimate the power of a simple thank you. So to the class of 2021, I thank you. I'm truly honored to be part of this cohort, and I wish you all joy, peace, and success throughout your journeys. Go Bears.
Go Chance!
Well done, Chance.
Thank you, Chance. Thank you so much for those powerful words and huge congratulations on your film. For those out there who aren't familiar with it, it's called Affirmative, and it's remarkable. I'm certain that you'll have an opportunity to see it if you haven't already. So, hi everyone, my name is Betsy Raitt, and I am Berkeley Journalism's Director of Career Development. But before that, I was a lecturer teaching video storytelling to outstanding students, including Chance. It is my honor to join you, the mighty class of 2021, to help celebrate your tremendous accomplishments and to send you off in style. So yeah, this is quite a year. It's hard to put it into words, but Chance and Robin did a wonderful job. I think it's safe to say that your time here bore no resemblance whatsoever to what you'd imagine for yourself when you applied to this program. I remember this time last year, sobbing my way through the class of 2020's bittersweet graduation. I was proud of them and I was already missing them, to be sure, but I was also mourning the loss of your normal Berkeley journalism experience. How would you ever learn what you needed to know? How would you form lasting relationships with each other and with us amid such dreadful circumstances? Well, I needn't have worried. I've read your work, I've heard your work, and I've seen your work. And you absolutely killed it. You broke news, you made headlines, gave us images and voices, points of view that deepened our understanding of ourselves and each other. And you developed new reporting techniques in the process. You made it look easy, though I know, believe me, I know it was anything but. I've been trying to put myself in your shoes. And imagine what you must be thinking now at this juncture, especially after everything you've been through. And like any good reporter, I bet you've been scanning the horizon, looking for signs to help you anticipate the working world that awaits. Now, I couldn't doom scroll when I graduated from journalism school. Twitter wasn't around then, but I can doom scroll with the best of them now. And a lot of what I've read would be downright frightening if I didn't have the benefit of my own deeply satisfying career experiences to go on. Racism, sexism, elitism, low pay, long hours, layoffs, burnout. I can't lie. These are things that can come with this line of work for now. And I experienced many of them myself. Actually, most, now that I think about it. Your journalism education has likely heightened your appreciation for the fact that stories are often way more complicated than they first appear. And they can require you to hold multiple conflicting ideas at once. Working in news today is just that kind of story. The industry is flawed. At the same time as your very fine work demonstrates, this discipline has the power to uplift the human spirit, unlike few others. And I can't imagine a more honorable and rewarding profession. So don't let the doom in your scroll drown out what's truly exciting about this place and time. Our profession is inexorably changing. The signs of a more humane, equitable, and rigorous discipline to come are everywhere, and you will benefit. Events of the past year have accelerated a shifting of the news world's traditional power centers. Used to be that news reporters were expected to wear low pay and long hours as a badge of honor. It was the price to pay for pursuing your passion. The sun is setting on that narrative, thankfully. Journalists are increasingly demanding and getting better compensation, improved working conditions, and newsrooms that reflect the communities they cover. According to Axios, nearly 2,000 journalists, representing more than 30 outlets, unionized in 2020. And union reps say 2021 is promising to be a record year. Just this week alone, reporters at the Kansas City Star, The Appeal, and the freelance producers at Jigsaw Productions announced the formation of their unions. Here's a recent example of the difference unions are making. A News Guild study of 14 unionized Gannett newsrooms found that the median salaries of women and people of color were at least $5,000 less than those of their male and white colleagues. Now that disparity is documented, Gannett will be forced to put things right. Across the country, there's a renewed respect for the necessity of independent local journalism that's designed to serve its community, not its shareholders. Each day seems to bring news of a new nonprofit newsroom or civic-minded public benefit corporation to hit the scene. Even funding and training opportunities if you want to start one of your own. For instance, just this month, we've learned that the journalist-owned Colorado Sun and the National Trust for Local News bought 24 of the state's newspapers to demonstrate a viable alternative to private equity and hedge fund ownership. The Overstory Media Group unveiled its plan to launch local news outlets in Canada and the United States. 50 new publications staffed with 250 journalists by 2023. In our own backyard, 2021 marked the arrival of Lookout Local in Santa Cruz and Hearsay Media across the Bay, both startups with plans to expand their models to news deserts nationwide. And let's celebrate the remarkable work of the local nonprofit Pacesetters. Cityside, the owner of Berkeley Side, Oakland Side, and the Tyler Texas Loop, who knew? Reveal, and the unstoppable Cal Matters. So yes, we've got Alden Global Capital and the like circling above, but below, there's a surging crop of nonprofit newsrooms producing meaningful work. The 19th, covering the intersection of gender, politics, and policy. Floodlight, the Environmental News Collective. URL Media, a network of Black and Brown media organizations. Canary Media, dedicated to covering clean energy. And a 21st century reimagining of The Emancipator is coming. The Emancipator, if you'll recall, was the country's first abolitionist newspaper founded over 200 years ago. If you don't know these organizations, Google them. They represent the leading edge of what's to come. And they're hiring. The very technology sector responsible for breaking the news industry's business model is now poised to disrupt the industry yet again. But this time, by making it easier for entrepreneurial journalists to connect with audiences. Just one example. Substack announced in April that it is going to give $1 million to help 30 local journalists publish newsletters covering their communities. Now, we can debate the quality of the content that results. Everyone needs a good editor. Am I right? Yes, you know I'm right. But one thing is clear. If you want to create your own publication, podcast, video broadcast, a film, and you've got a computer or a phone with a good internet connection, there is nothing stopping you. I mean, in the middle of a pandemic, stuck at home, your colleague, Marco Torres, converted his studio apartment into a television studio, complete with a green screen. And he started his own damn show using a simple app called Haps. And people tuned in. He booked guests and everything. Take a minute to talk with your colleague, Chloe Reynolds, about how she's using TikTok to bring news to new audiences. She devoted her master's project to it. Just this week, a prominent magazine editor, an alum of this program actually, told me, we're at a point where publications need writers more than writers need publications. My friends, you have the keys to the car. You do not need anyone's permission to drive it, especially with the excellent training you've received here at Berkeley Journalism. So, drive, baby. Drive that car. I hope you can see that you are entering a journalism field at a time of unprecedented change and opportunity. And you are well positioned to take advantage of this moment and push these trends forward. And how do I know? Just look at the difference you've made here at Berkeley Journalism. As Dean Anand put it so powerfully, this school, this program, this team, everything has changed, and for the better. Thanks to you, we are more focused on the work that needs to be done to make our school a more welcoming and inclusive place. And the journalism that results will be even more powerful. You've also sharpened the mission today's journalism schools can and should play. It's not enough to offer a great education. We too have to do our part to advocate for conditions that make it possible for anyone with a journalism dream to enter the field, stay in it, and leave a mark. Our society depends on it. So thank you. Finally. Oh, thanks.
Betsy!
Thank you. Last thought. So finally, it's funny. During the interviews with the candidates for the school's new faculty race and journalism position, did you happen to notice, like me, how many of them talked about how they felt like outsiders at different points in their lives and how it was a factor that drew them to this profession? I think that's true of many, if not most of us. But I hope you know that here, in journalism's unique liminal space, somewhere between observation and action, objectivity and advocacy, you belong. You formed a community here based on the inherent optimism of journalistic acts and deepened by the vagaries of the pandemic. You will always share a special connection. So as you drive, baby drive, to points unknown, do keep each other fixed in your mirrors. Look after each other. Lend a hand or an ear. It's only a matter of time before you, indeed we, see each other again. Congratulations, class of 2021.
So Betsy.
Well, I am proud to now stand here before you and for the first time address you as colleagues. For those of you who don't know me, and that might include a few students among you, my name is Richard Koci Hernandez, and I've spent the last year in a magical cave called Sabbatical. And in that cave, there are unicorns and rainbows and everything you would imagine. And I got a call, and I want you to remember a scene from a very obscure movie in the 70s where this old white man comes out in a cloak and he's all stumbling around, and somebody looks up at him and calls his name. And it goes something like this. I was like, Koci, of course, I know him. He's me. I haven't gone by that name, Koci, before the dark times, before the empire, but I know exactly who you mean. And before we send you off into that beautifully wretched hive of scum and villainy, I want to take the role of teacher and mentor one more time and dispense with a few things I learned in the sabbatical cave. But I truly do want to express how humbled and honored I am to stand before you. I didn't have what you have. I didn't have what it takes to get into graduate school and take the journey you did. I am truly and honestly humbled by your accomplishment. And I want to take a few moments before I actually present you with your final Zoom lecture ever of your entire life, right? I want us to take a few moments just to acknowledge all of the loved ones that have come before us. They've given a lot in a lot of ways for all of us to be here. And most people won't say this to you, but I would honestly give anything to be in your shoes right now. I regret nothing I've done in my life, that's for sure. I wouldn't do anything differently, but you guys are embarking on such an amazing, motivational, challenging, discouraging, disparaging, wonderful, beautiful adventure. And so I'm a bit jealous. But before I turn off my lightsaber one last time and hand it over to you, with humility, I want to present you your final Zoom lecture.
Wear sunscreen.
I wish I would have listened to my elders sooner. When I stop and reflect back on my life, I think I can truly say that my only regret will be that I moved too many places, too many times, using trash bags. Invest in some sturdy boxes. In the beginning of every story is the end, and in the end, the beginning, and in the end, it's always a love story, even in our darkest moments. The cliche about enjoying the power of youth and beauty is lost on you right now. But trust me, the day will come and you will look back and realize how marvelous you really looked. Print out your photographs. Enjoy today, enjoy the light, bask in the sun, because when you wake up tomorrow and it's quiet and you're alone in your head, that's when the true test starts. Tomorrow you wake up a true professional. And the professional artist, the professional journalist, the writer, the videographer, the cinematographer, the editor, the producer, we all live by the same code, which dictates this one and only rule, that we show up every day prepared. Learn how to roll up your sleeves without flexing your muscles, and be as soft as a flower and compassionate when it comes to subjects, but be stronger than iron where ethics and principles, accountability and transparency are at stake. Treat the small as the large and treat the least fortunate among you with kindness and respect. Meet all your subjects with the power of an open mind. Surround yourself with books. Unplug.
Sophia. Where is she?
Slow down. Nothing is more invigorating in this age of infobesity than simply stopping. Don't fear slowing down. Don't fear complicating the narrative. Take longer, dig deeper, never be afraid to get your butt in the ring. Sure, you're gonna get hit and you're gonna take a few blows. That's the point of being in the ring. You didn't sign up to be on the sidelines. Don't water it down. The brain loves complexity. I wish I'd gotten to know my parents, friends, mentors better. Take the time. Do it now.
What's your name?
What's name?
No, what is your name? I'm asking you.
Record their voices. You'll miss them when they're gone.
Sophia.
My name is Sophia.
Dance with those you love before it's too late. Don't squander the time to tell the story you know best. Remember that the concept of life is better seen as a dance than a journey. Remember that beginnings are explosive, primordial, dirty, messy, cataclysmic, and often painful. Stop every few moments and ask yourself, what is this about? And remember that you are full of potential at every moment. Take advantage of the question, who do I want to be right now? You have control of the cinema, the film in your head. Stop playing Alien and play a romantic comedy. Never forget, a good journalist always asks this question before publishing. What's missing? Or more importantly, who am I missing? And then fill that gap. Finally, identify the spark that brought you to this moment. That magical piece of journalism or storytelling that put you here, because you're going to need that spark and that passion. You're going to need that quote, that film, that video that gave you that breathless moment that made you want to give everything that you are to this calling that we call journalism. Oh yeah, and don't forget, wear sunscreen. Lots and lots and lots of sunscreen.
Koci! Good job, Koci.
Wow, Koci, that was amazing. And Betsy, Chancellor, Robin, I'm so inspired by your words. I have the privilege now, and I am so pleased to introduce this year's student-selected commencement speaker, award-winning journalist, author, teacher, trailblazer, role model, needle mover, Maria Hinojosa. She is founder of Futuro Media, anchor and executive producer of the long-running NPR show Latino USA, and so much more. Born in Mexico City and raised in Chicago, Hinojosa has helped define the conversation about our times and our society with one of the most authentic voices in journalism. She has won the top honors in American journalism, from 4 Emmys to a Peabody, the John Chancellor Award for Excellence in Journalism, and the Edward R. Murrow Award from the Overseas Press Club, the Sidney Hillman Prize, and more. And she has a new book out that you all should read called Once I Was You, a memoir of love and hate in a torn America. We've purchased copies of it for each graduating student. Maria, we are so happy to have you here at UC Berkeley. Welcome.
Dean, thank you. Dean, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Your words, I just want to say, I wish I was going to Berkeley School of Journalism. I wish I was, you guys got like a serious, great journalism, but also like great people and messages. I'm like, am I really at a journalism school graduation? At one of the top journalism school graduates? I am. And Dean, you led the way. So everything that you said, I was like, well, that was me, and that was me, that was me. So thank you so much for jumping in, for being in the position now as a leader of the dean of the school. It's so important. Also, Robin, I mean, really, you made me cry. I was like, what's happening here? Chancellor, same thing. Betsy, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So, you know, always ask the question. Because Betsy was like, should I ask Maria? And it's like, she's probably going to say no. And it was like, but you never know. So always make the connection and ask the question. It's great to see you, Betsy. And to Koci, okay, seriously, that was like beautiful. I mean, I loved all of that. So thank you so much. And to the faculty and to the administration, to the part-time teachers, to everybody who helps make the school run, to your families. Whew. Wow. And mostly to you students, congratulations. Woo! Okay, see, I really wish I was with you now, even though truth is flying from New York City to over by you, whatever airport I choose, it's always a difficult thing. But seriously, I so wish I was with you, because there's nothing quite like the human connection. But as a professor this year, I also realized that I had some of the most intense connections with my students, maybe because they were in their pajamas and we were all able to be very vulnerable, learning to write together. So I understand the power of this as well. But thank you, first, just to the students. I love you so much, and to your families. Felicidades, congratulations. Thank you for supporting the fellow journalists of our country. We need them. And so thank you for being by their sides. And to all of your partners who are with you and have to put up with us, thank you too. We need you. And I just want to take a moment of solidarity to our fellow journalists in Gaza today. We love and respect you. And this has been quite a horrible moment to know that our offices, the AP, Al Jazeera, independent news organizations would be targeted. And so it's a little bit shocking to be seeing those images on a day when I'm addressing you. But I think everybody has made it clear that in the life of a journalist, if you are a journalist of conscience, you will feel all of these things. And we never want you to stop feeling these things, which is why I think it was Robin, you were talking about the numb. Yeah, I actually developed PTSD after 9/11. And that was it. I was numb for 3 years. And then I was like, okay, wait a second, something's wrong here. It happens. And at least you, on your graduation, you're talking about this. We didn't have a word for this. We didn't even, I mean, I just remember at CNN when I knew something. Okay, I'll just tell you the truth. I have to tell you the truth because I always tell you the truth. But I knew that something, I was at CNN at the time, the towers had just collapsed. It was 48 hours after. And in that span of time, I remember feeling warm and gushy feelings towards Rudy Giuliani and George W. Bush. I know, but that's what trauma looks like. That's what trauma looks like. And so it allows me to understand people who react in unpredictable ways in the midst of trauma. And then you realize that that's what it looks like. And of course you do therapy. But I remember when I walked into that office at CNN where nobody went because it was to talk about how you were feeling, it was not good. I mean, honestly, they sent somebody who was so unprofessional that you were like, why did I even do this? Anyway, moving on. I want to tell you that yesterday, first of all, as you saw on my Twitter, I'm like, why do I say yes to give commencement speeches? These are the most difficult speeches ever. They are so hard. And you know, they have to be like timed perfectly. And I've got so much to say. And I'm going to be thinking about everything that I didn't say to you for like a week. So get in touch with me. I'm going to be like, I should have told them this. I should have. But I'm here also to entertain you. And so I gave another commencement speech last night because I also could not say no to the Harvard undocumented students graduation. If they asked me, I had to be there. And I said to them the same words that I'm going to say to you. You are los héroes de la película. Son los héroes de la película. You are the heroes of the picture. You are the heroes of the movie. And you have to see yourself like that. And by the way, please, you know, if you haven't, of course you've seen Good Night, Good Luck, but go see it just for ducks. This is how I describe our undocumented student graduates of Harvard, the heroes. And so I thought those are the same words that I want to start with you. You know, a lot of people are like, oh my God, you know, you did this and you're such a, you know, oh my God, you're so brave. And I'm like, the same thing actually that I heard from all of the firefighters on 9/11, which I'm not brave. This is my job. I think part of our job as journalists is actually to be brave because it takes some guts to actually walk up to a total stranger and say, can I talk to you? So maybe we need to understand that we have that bravery in us. And so, like I said to the students at Harvard last night, I am here to give you props. I am here to say, yeah, you got to believe in yourself. Yes, you have to talk to yourself. Try not to let a lot of people see that, but you know, yes. And I know that it hasn't been easy. I mean, I know this sense of how lost what I love is that everybody in your, from the dean on down, you're talking. And this is why I'm just like, damn, you guys got a cool school. Like to be able to talk about feeling lost in a newsroom or getting tired, as Dean said, of having to pitch to white guys and having them understand your reality better than yours. Like, oh, no, we know better than you that that's not a story. Therefore, living with imposter syndrome. Yeah, you'll read about it in the book. I didn't know it was going to touch such a nerve with people, but people are like, why would you write about that? Why would you reveal it? And it's because I don't want you feeling it. That's why. I don't want you feeling it. So part of why this speech is so hard is because I feel this huge responsibility of what I'm going to miss, what I'm not going to say. And so, this weight I was fighting with my family. They were like, what's the matter? I'm like, I'm giving a commencement speech. They were like, oh, okay, all right, we know this. We've been and it weighing on me. And then I was like, I want this to weigh on your shoulders too. Our profession has to weigh on your shoulders. I mean, seriously. And so, yes, everybody talking about how difficult, Betsy saying she's been unemployed, she's had to do this. Yeah, that happens. Okay. And so you have to understand then, and you do, because look at the cool school. I don't even know this. Everybody say it's about mission. Clearly at your school, you are taught this in your classes. Now, I was thinking about my own role about this, and I think it was Koci who said, I didn't even apply to grad school after having gone to Barnard. I'm pointing because Barnard is right over there. I'm in Harlem, and I didn't, after I graduated on the dean's list, magna cum laude, I still didn't think I was good enough to go to the Columbia J School. I was too afraid to take the GEDs, and I didn't want to go into debt. Sounds like I could have gone to Berkeley in the year 2020 or whenever it is that you're going to go tuition free, which is, thank you. Class diversity is so important. I love you for that. Oh my God. Thank you. I have always said, people think that I'm only talking about, I want, diversity in terms of race and ethnicity. Yes, but also class. So important. So when I was younger, I think I was too overwhelmed to think about mission. I understood mission when I was at WKCR and I was doing college radio, which was kind of radical college radio. I understood my mission there. But again, to me, that was college radio until somebody said, hey, you've got a great radio voice, and then actually a white woman from the career services office, Jane Gould, said to me, you must apply to the internship at NPR. I didn't believe that I was good enough. Wait a minute. I'm so tired of that. So please know that we all go through it. And there's a certain element of the humility that I think we as journalists actually have to hold on to, our humility. Really, really essential, but we can't also let it take us down, right? So I decide to, I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's in the book, but basically I have this moment when at my first job, I'm hired at NPR, the first Latina ever. People are like, what did you feel like? I was like, it was a recession. I had a job. I was no longer going to have to be a waitress. All respect to people who work in the food service industry. Oh, sorry. Honey, can you open it? Sorry, it's live. So I was no longer going to have to be a waitress. It was an amazing thing. But I don't think that I was thinking mission when I got to NPR. I think I was too overwhelmed. I was still too young, which is okay, right? I mean, you do know that your brain is adolescent brain until the age of 26, 27. So you're still developing. So yes, like everybody has said, go easy on yourself. But I had this moment with my first boss, Jay Kernis. We had just come from an editorial meeting, and I was forcing myself to speak up because I was like, Jesus, I have privilege. I can't be quiet here. I can't let my fear, the fact that I'm the first one, that nobody knows what I'm talking about. This is what responsibility looks like. I'm going to force myself to talk. And I would like literally pinch myself, like, talk. And then we're walking back from a meeting, and Jay, a privileged white Jewish guy from New Jersey. Actually, he grew up next door to my neighbor, Elmo Randolph, the dentist, who's Black and gay. I know, great stories. And he said, oh my goodness, it's so terrible what happened in Mexico. It was 1985. There had been an earthquake. Thousands had died. American Airlines plane had crashed. 250 people had died right outside of Mexico City. Yeah. And he said, I just don't know what would happen in the United States if we had that kind of tragedy, one after the other. I don't think we could handle it. But I guess the people of Mexico, they're kind of used to it, right? Okay, this is a long time ago, so I know we're talking about a different time now. Y'all can handle anything, but I stopped him. This was my boss. I stopped him in the hallway and I turned to him and I said, Jay, no one gets used to suffering. It was on overdrive, the famine in Ethiopia. I said, the images that then become dehumanizing. I said, the women in Ethiopia whose children are dying are crying as much as you when you lose your child. No one, I couldn't hold it back. It was authentic and it wasn't planned. And I was like, I'm about to lose my job. Oh my God. And he said to me, wow, now I know you can be the social conscience of the show, Weekend Edition. And I remember feeling like, what? And then saying like, okay, fine, then I will be. It could have ended badly, Jay Kernis could have turned out to be somebody who felt very threatened by the way I thought, the way I talked, and it could have ended very badly. And I think what we're also saying is that for some of you along the way, it might end badly, but it's not the end. Our profession is really tough. I mean, to begin, like, seriously, I remember people are like, oh my God, you're a warrior. I'm like, yes, we shouldn't have to be warriors to make it in our business. Those of us who work in public media specifically, and in commercial media too. But it is tough. And I remember saying, look, running your own, creating your own nonprofit independent news media organization, not for the faint of heart, but I did it. I do want to give a shout out to all of you, but also again, to the family and friends and partners that we have in our life, because they really do help us make it through. I remember my husband, he's like, you don't suffer from PMS, you suffer from PSS, pre-story syndrome. Every time the night before I had to write a script, I was like in a state of panic. So, yeah, that's what imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough, looks like. It's the pre-story syndrome where you're freaking out, even though you're good enough to do it. Therapy, highly recommended. One of the ways that I got over my fear of writing is understanding that I had to tell a story as if I was telling it to my mom. And therefore, my mom was a great storyteller. I always had great emotions when she was telling me any story about going to the supermarket. I was like, and then what happened? I remember along the way, one of my white male editors from NPR actually said this to me. He was like, oh, come on, Maria. We all know about your agenda. I was like, my what? Because I was the first Latina correspondent at NPR, And he was like, we all know about your Latino agenda. And I was like, my Latino agenda? I was like, and I had another perfect comeback that was authentic, not planned. You can't say them all the time. And sometimes they might cost your job. But I said to him, well, I guess that means that you have a white male agenda then. Oh, no, it's not the same thing. And I said, well, actually, it is. I didn't make it about aggressiveness. I think maybe humor has been something that has saved me in multiple occasions. A lot of you wanted to know how I did it, how I made it. It was really challenging. I left CNN because they chose Lou Dobbs over me, straight up, in the year 2004. They said, we want Lou Dobbs. We don't want you. We don't want what you do. And I thought it was the end of my career, and it launched me, took me to Now on PBS, where I met Betsy. And then I learned how to raise money. And then I remember when we were closing down Now on PBS and everybody was crying, as Yasmin Qureshi said to me, we'll work for you, Maria, create your own thing. And I was like, are you serious? I was terrified. I'm a journalist. I had never run anything. But a few people had seen in me what I couldn't see in myself. And that's what your professors see in you. And I can already hear in you as I'm, oh my God, y'all are amazing. So yeah, you can do the things. Look where you made it to already. That's why the imposter syndrome, put it in your pocket, say goodbye to it. Again, the shout out to our partners, because sometimes the battle in our families, sometimes the battle in this business can be so hard that we bring the battle into our homes. We don't want to do that. Especially when we're producers and then we want to come home and be producers of our lives and our families. I mean, my kids, they're really, you know, they're adult kids now. And one of them is working in the business, but you know, it's like, we don't want Maria Hinojosa. We don't want the producer. We want our mom. And it's just like, okay. Ultimately, it's about that mission. It's about that commitment to excellence. It's about learning to trust your voice. Again, if you have gotten this far, it's because there's something in you that has already that journalist fire inside of you. And you've got to trust that. You've got to trust that gut that tells you there's a story there. Always be writing down your story list, because you never know. It may take you 20 years, but you had it on your list. I'm reading some of the things that I wrote down in my little speech, and I'm about to, okay, trigger warning. I'm about to use a 4-letter word, not exactly, but it came right after trust your gut. And it was like, don't be an asshole. I'm sorry. Excuse me, Dean. I'm so sorry, Dean. Such a respectful moment, but I'm sorry. In our business, don't be one. I'm not going to repeat it because I know you've never heard that word before coming out of a journalist's mouth. Don't be one. In our business, we don't need that. And sometimes we may act like that, but then you can quickly apologize. I see Betsy like, yeah, we know a few. You don't want us to start telling you. No, we don't want to say that. But I'm telling you, as the next generation, all of that wokeness, that conscience is also about, yes, everybody saying be nice, and also in the newsroom, you don't have to take each other down. On this, at the same time, question authority at every point. But how do we do that, right? It is un jogo de cintura, as we say in Brazilian Portuguese. It is a hip swaying event. Sometimes you may say something that costs you, but if you say it in a way that is respectful, more than often, even in disagreement, there can be a learning moment. My own staff has had to come to me and say, hey, not as much now, thank God, I hope. But it had to happen in the beginning. They were like, yo, you need to come down. Óyeme, bájate, bájate. Of course, that's my favorite thing of my family to say to me. Bájate, pon los pies en la tierra. That will help you to do good journalism if you keep your feet on the ground and you remain that humble, that arrogant person who's prepared to challenge anyone in power, but that humble person who is prepared to ask anyone anything and to listen. The mission thing. I think a lot of my life, I didn't have the historical perspective until I read News for All the People, written by Juan Gonzalez and Joe Torres. Please go get it. Have it by your bedside. And then I understood. I was like, oh, espérate un segundo, wait a second. My founding father is Frederick Douglass. Oh, I see you, Ida B. Wells. Oh, I see you. Now I know Jovita Idar is in that list. I now, then of course, Ruben Salazar, then of course, Ida B. Wells. Now I understand that what I do is connected to a historical arc of journalists of conscience in our country. Yes, journalists of color, but you do not have to be a journalist of color to be a journalist of conscience in our country. And that is our historical connection. So when you are feeling down and you're like, oh my God, I can't stand this, or I just witnessed something ridiculous in my newsroom or whatever, go and walk to the statue of Frederick Douglass the way I do, and make it your digital statue of Frederick Douglass, and you be with him. Because if he did this, we do this. In his name. He is our founding father. So also, like, total shift, because I'm scrolling down. I'm not doing the death scroll. I'm doing like the doom scroll. I'm like, oh my God, I've got to get to the end, and I've only got 8 minutes left, and I've got a few more things to say, but I love what I just said because I was writing my thoughts. It says, by the way, ask the students who died and made white men in charge of objectivity. No, they are not. Having said that, the mainstream media, which many of you will go work for, and I encourage you, do not lose your soul and watch out for the golden handcuffs. Okay, but it's okay. But the mainstream media is owned, controlled, operated. The buck stops 98, 99% of the time with white, straight, cis men presenting heterosexual of privilege. They do not have the key on objectivity. And you know that because obviously y'all go to a great school where you are being taught that. Other schools, that is still being discussed. And yet it is a reality. I woke up this morning very worried about this speech. And of course, I was looking at the headlines and I saw somewhere, I'm not sure where, that, you know, mainstream media is struggling because they don't know how to characterize the Republican Party in this moment. And I'm like, seriously, see, that's, we remain connected to the truth. We remain connected to the truth. The fact that this country's journalism, where has been amazing journalism, and you've been a part of it, obviously, but there's also been such an acquiescence in the name of both sides, that our mainstream media was not saying, be on the alert for a possible coup d'etat. We have intelligence sources telling us there may be. How intelligent is our intelligence sources if they didn't know this? Why were we not being told, understand white supremacy, how this works, the narrative? It's the reason why in my newsroom, we never use the word minority. Because white America then fears becoming a minority and becoming powerless. We don't have to use the same term, define it in the same way. It's why we don't use the term illegal to refer to a human being. It's why having people of color, trans people, Muslim people, Mexican immigrants who are short and boxers own and operate the means of production, because white men do not own objectivity, my loves. And you know, we love them. They work for me. But no, that is in service to white supremacy. And we are taking it down. And thankfully, your generation of journalists can label it. Mine could not. Okay. So here's the part where it says, okay, I often feel overwhelmed every day, but then I'll go stand next to this statue of Harriet Tubman, a liberation dreamer, a freedom dreamer. Do not be mistaken. First of all, I'm having a fabulous time. Don't give up dreaming ever, because I always dreamed that I would be in a Hollywood film, and I'm in the Heights. Watch it and see. Also, I always dreamed I would create my own investigative unit. Boom. It was announced this week. We just got funded. So that's happening. As far as I know, I am the only person running an national investigative unit specifically for Latinos, Latinas, and immigrants. We are launching it. Keep your eye out. Don't stop dreaming. That didn't happen 11 years ago when I launched Futuro Media. It took 11 years. So it's the long play, the long arc. And part of that means sometimes you're going to feel overwhelmed. My sources, where are my refugees? Where did she disappear to? How come I haven't heard from her? How come this one is calling me too much and I have to give attention to my family? But where are they? And I feel overwhelmed. And you know what? That's why I meditate. And I was probably like you, like, hell, I'll never meditate. It was Lidia Cacho, Mexican journalist, who basically forced me to meditate. I do that, and then I box, and now I weightlift. And I look at nature, and I look at birds, and I connect with my ancestors and with the silence. Look, half of my speech is still here, but I know I have to go. But I'm going to end in the same way that I ended for the undocumented students yesterday. I didn't think I was going to end this way with you, but I'm kind of feeling this. Actually, it was a fellow journalist, my mentor and best friend, godmother, Sandy Ratley, first African-American vice president at NPR, and my colleague, who said to me, who's deeply spiritual, and she was the first Black executive at NPR. We put up with a lot. And she said, sometimes we have to get quiet. So sometimes as journalists, we can also be quiet, whether we're listening to a source, or more importantly, when you're listening to your own gut. Find your mission. Don't give up. Remember, it's the long haul. You are part of an arc of American history. Class of 2021, we need you. I'm going to start crying. Don't give up, ever. Okay? I love you. No se agüiten. It's always hard. It's all hard. Journalism is harder, but don't give up. You are part of history and herstory. Los amo, los adoro. Congratulations. If there are any of you who are undocumented, I love you. I see you. And tell the truth, yo. Tell the truth. Congratulations.
Thank you, Maria, just for a life-changing speech, reminding us never to give up, to focus on the silence. I just we'll be remembering the words of wisdom from this speech for a lifetime. Thank you. One of the most beloved members of our community, Associate Dean Jeremy Rue, will now read the names of the candidates for the Master's in Journalism degree. Over to you, Jeremy.
Yuridia Avila. Jesse Badayan. Katie Bernstein.
Go, Katie!
Ashley Tiana Brown. Aaron Chesson.
Yay!
Anne Doherty. Victoria Dmitrieva. Robin Alexandra Estrin.
Go, Robin!
Skylar Glover.
Yeah! That's Skylar.
Haley Gray.
Hey!
Natalia Gurevich. Catherine Mary Hurd.
Catherine!
Yeah!
No.
Kristen Wong. Julia Kane.
Julie!
Laureen LaSalle. Aaron Lathley.
Go, Aaron.
Daniel McHenry Lempres.
Go Daniel.
Ellie Lightfoot. Isabel Linden.
Yeah.
Chancellor Makanjuola.
Yeah, chance.
Woo! Go, Chad.
Ashna Malpani. Brett Marsh.
Are you next?
Clara Shuku Moku. Ashley Nadrodri. Michelle Pitcher.
Look what the hell.
Isaiah Polite. Tracy Quesada. Chloe Reynolds.
Go, Chloe. Come on, stay here so we can all do it. Come on.
David Rodriguez. Daniel Roman. Dina Sabri.
Yeah.
David Wills Sekranda.
Oh,
It's so clear on your
Inwa she.
Go idiot.
Brett Victoria Simpson. Marco Torres.
Go, Marco.
Praise be to God, we did it.
Marco.
Yeah.
Brian Wolitz.
Brian. Yeah.
Goran Zajadi Zaneti.
I am about to present the class to you, but before I do that, I wanted to make sure we thank our amazing tech team, Chris O'Day, Rick Johnson, Topher, Julie, and Tracy, who helped produce this. And then let me say, Jeremy, come here. We want to together present the Berkeley Journalism class of 2021. Congratulations.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, I like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again.
Oh, hey. Are we still there?
For you.